Okay, everybody. Everybody, welcome to Reason and Revelation, season three. Season three, episode one. Today is October 13th, 2020. We just finished some Torah and Shemini Haga Atzeret. It's the 25th of Tishri, 5781, and we're very, very excited to start our new season of Reason and Revelation. Just a note about the title of the class. Reason and Revelation is that we have two different elements that shouldn't be in competition with one another, but in our world sometimes they are in competition with one another. One is revelation, the concept of nivu'ah, the concept that Hakadosh Baruch Hu speaks to human beings, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu sends messages to human beings, which is not logical, it's not scientific, it's not rational, and it's something that the Jewish people have always believed in and will always believe in. The other thing is reason. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us an intellect, gave us a brain, gave us a mechanism for making sense of the world around us, gave us tools in terms of the body in order to make our lives even more better. As we see from the scope of human history, humans using logic and using reason and using rational thought have made our lives better, have improved our existence on Earth. We've come up with a tremendous amount of scientific creations, or not creations, but scientific processes in order to improve our lives. Just think about air conditioning, right? Human beings were hot, and we said we're going to figure out something called air conditioning in order to improve our things. So my contention is, and this is what I put on the, they asked me to put out a commercial for the class, that I am firmly committed to believing that we need to integrate both revelation, nivu'ah from Hashem, and our reason and our logic and our rational way of thinking in order to make sense of the world around us. One without the other can't work. Nivu'ah without a human being willing to listen to it doesn't have an effect. It's like a soul without a body. On the other hand, you have reason without opening up the possibility that there is a higher realm of thinking and a better way of thinking about something, and only to live your life according to the way that you think is correct is also faulty. That's like a body without a soul, right? We used that metaphor before. So that's the title of the class, Reason and Revelation. Today, in light of the pandemic, more things are coming into focus, really. And I have to say, I'm excited. I know people, I'm not trying to put down people, put aside people suffering, but I'm excited to live in this time because humanity, not just Brooklyn, not just New York, not just the United States, not just Israel, but every single human being on earth is collectively rethinking their priority structure. They are recognizing that there are certain limits to science. There are certain limits to medicine. There's certain limits to human behavior in terms of figuring out law and order and the proper ways of governing each other. Right? We have different types of governments all around the world. This is a time that humanity, as a group, as one group of human beings, is collectively questioning and reorganizing and processing and hopefully coming out of this in a better way. We're rethinking, we're reconsidering, and we're judging ourselves. And always, this is the greatest thing about human beings, always in order to move forward, in order to figure out how to do something better the next time. So today, and maybe tomorrow, maybe the next class, I don't think it's going to only be one class. This is a very, very deep topic, and maybe we'll take it as long as it can go. I want to discuss prayer, tefillah, and I want to discuss specifically the concept of bakasha. Bakasha means to ask for something, to request something. It's a super, super difficult concept, very, very difficult, and I want to make sure that we give it the right seriousness. I know we're not all sitting together in a classroom, and it would be much better that way, but we're going to do our best to do it on Zoom. So let's start. Rosh Hashanah, the most one of the most important days of the year, Yom Haddin. It's a day where the rabbis explain to us that everything that we're going to receive the next 364 days is going to be decided on Rosh Hashanah. That's what the rabbis explain. And they learn it out of the word hok, right? That Hashem sets aside your portion of bread, just like Hashem did in the Midbar. There's also a pasuk in Tehillim that Hashem sets aside your portion aside on Rosh Hashanah for the rest of the year. So what did the rabbis do? The rabbis said, since we think that that's happening, we want you to read the Haftarah of Tefillat Hana on Rosh Hashanah. Strange. Rosh Hashanah is about the shofar, isn't it? Rosh Hashanah is about Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot, isn't it? So why did the rabbis not choose something better to read as the Haftarah on Rosh Hashanah? Why did they give us Tefillat Hana? It's because Tefillat Hana is what's the word that I'm looking for? If we were sitting together, somebody would yell it out, right? It's the paradigm. It's the paradigm for how one should pray, and we learn that from Hana. Let's go over the story for 1 second. Hana is one of two wives in a marriage, in a relationship. The other one is Penina. Penina had a lot of children. Hana was barren. The husband would come home, and year after year after year after year would give Penina and her children presents. And he would give Hana a double portion of presents. And he would tell Hana that you are more important to me than everything else in the world. But that didn't quench Hana's desire for a child. So one year, she goes to the Mishkan. And she sits in the Mishkan, and she's in silent communication with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And she's pouring her heart out. And it's going on and on and on and on and on. And it's not ending. And Eli, the Kohen Gadol at the time, is watching her from the back. And he thinks horrible things. He thinks maybe she's drunk. Why is she acting this way? Why is she crying? Why are her lips moving? It's a very strange type of situation. And he walks over to Hana and says, Ad matai tishtakirin? How long are you going to come here and be drunk? And Hana says, familiar with the story, ladies, I know. Hana says, you're mistaken. You're mistaken. I'm not drunk. I'm communicating with Hashem. So the rabbis ask a question, why even put this story into Shemuel? Why even put the story into the Navi? It makes Eli look dumb, right? If Eli knew after the fact that she was doing the right thing, why put the story into the Navi to make Eli look silly? I mean, it literally makes him look silly. Like, didn't he know she was connected to Hashem? So on the surface, there's something very simple we can learn from the story, which is, right? Rak sefatiha na'ot, with a little bit of cute lesson. Her lips were moving, but we can learn out from that not to pay lip service to God. That's a simple, very simple message. Is when you're praying to God, yes, we're all humans. Yes, 9 out of 10 of our tefillot are not going to be deep, but we should try our best not to pay lip service to God, without a doubt. We should be sincere in the praise that we're giving him and also the commitments that we're giving him in order to be sincere. There's no doubt. But there's a much deeper level. Obviously, Eli knew that she wasn't drunk. What was Eli trying to say? What was the message that Eli was trying to give, and what's the deeper message that Hannah was giving him back? Eli was saying, "You're overdoing it. You're coming here and you're praying and you're sobbing. You're overdoing it. It's not all about you, Hannah. Why are you getting so wrapped up in the emotions of it? It looks very selfish. It looks very superficial. It looks very self-serving. That's what I meant, not superficial, self-serving." Hannah says, "Eli, you missed it. You don't know what's in my mind. You don't know what's in my heart, Eli. I know some people come here and do self-serving prayer, but that wasn't about me. Listen to this. Ready? How do we know that Hannah was not making a self-service prayer? She says this. Vatidor neder. She makes a vow. Vatomar Adonai Sevaot. He says, God of the legions. Imraot tir'eh be'oni amatecha. If you see my pain, uskartani, and you remember me, velo tishkach et amatecha, venatata la'amatecha zera anashim. And if you give me a child, a baby boy, untativ ladonai, I'm going to place him and give him to you. Kol yemei hayav, all the years of his life, not even my life, right? I'm going to commit him to you all the years of his life. Umura lo ya'aleh al rosho, and I'm going to make sure that he never cuts his hair, which is a deeper thing. We'll talk about it another time. The proof that Hannah was not praying for something self-interest was that immediately upon having the child, she recommitted the child back to Hashem. Strange. Eli says, wow, can't believe you said that. You mean to tell me you don't want to have a kid for yourself? She goes, no. I want to have a child so that this child can help be in service of God in order to fulfill God's wish to make sure that the planet is populated by good, honest, kind, just people. And she takes the child, Shemuel, and she gives him back to Eli after she weans the child, and Shemuel becomes a leader of the people in service of God, a malach of God. So look at the message over here. So deep. She's making a bakasha. Hannah is making a bakasha. Eli incorrectly accuses her of being self-serving, of being all about self-interest. The reason why we choose this to read on Rosh Hashanah is because from all the requests that we made, ladies, we made a lot of requests on Rosh Hashanah. Did we request things for ourselves, selfishly, in order to fulfill our own ta'avot, our own desires, whether those desires are material or emotional or social? Or did we make those requests from God in order to be more, to show our commitment to be more in service of God? It's an extraordinary, very, very deep thing. It's a very, very difficult thing, right? We all have our own personal needs, our own personal challenges, our own personal requests. But is it about us? Or is it about the fact that we are children of God? And as child of God, I want to make God, I want to please my father or my mother. I want to please my parent by doing what they want me to do and being the best person that I could possibly be. And sometimes you need stuff. I need a house. I need a house. I have to tell you, I need a house with a room that nobody comes into. Why? Why do I need that? Selfishly? No. I need that so I can have a private space. And having that private space will allow me to connect or to produce classes, or will allow me some quiet solitude to read a book so I can connect better, so understand better about the world. So when I ask for things, first of all, huge disclaimer, I am not perfect. I don't do this all the time with my requests from God. But what Hannah is doing is the paradigm of bakasha. Listen to this pasuk. It says, "V'haya ki hirbeta lehitpalel lifnei Adonai." Who was she praying? She was praying before God. She was reminding herself that anything that she's requesting in terms of the child is for God. Lifnei Hashem. The pasuk continues. It says, "V'ta'an Hannah v'toma v'to." I'm sorry, my glasses are not. "V'tomer lo Adoni isha keshat ruach anochi v'yayin v'shecha lo shatiti v'eshpoch." I'm pouring out my heart in front of God. That is why we read, that's why the Hachamim chose Tefillat Hannah on Rosh Hashanah. To teach us that when we ask for a lot of things, we're really just asking for the tools to be the best person possible, to have everything we possibly need in order so that we're happy, By the way, happiness is a choice. So you have to have the sechel to be able to choose happiness. We're asking Hashem for all the tools, the material, the emotional, the psychological tools in order to help create me as a mechanism, as an agent of goodness on earth. So now this concept of bakasha and requests have been dealt with by tremendous hachamim over the years, right? It's a fantastic question, right? Listen to the questions you could ask about asking for something from God. Okay, listen to these things, and we're just going to pose one solution today. One solution. And I'm not sure we're going to be able to, definitely, I'm sure I'm not going to be able to get to the second part of 2, so we'll do part 2 next week. Listen to the philosophical question, okay? If God is omniscient means, for all the Israelis who are forgetting the English, right? If omniscient means that he knows everything. Inshallah, we should all speak Lashon HaKodesh one day, right? That we could live in a society with Lashon HaKodesh. Why is it called, just as an aside, why is it called Lashon HaKodesh? There's tremendous amount of midrashim about this. Some people believe that Hashem only speaks in Lashon HaKodesh to man. And I don't know, I don't understand it. But Lashon HaKodesh means because God created this language, it's clean. It's clean. There's no negativity in the language itself. The language itself doesn't contain any vulgarisms or anything like that. So it's called Lashon HaKodesh. Separate. Kodesh is separate. Anyway, back to this. So if Hashem is omniscient, if Hashem knows everything already, why do I need to mention it? Simple thing, right? If we believe in God, God is all-knowing, I shouldn't have to sit here and pour out my heart. Hannah shouldn't have to pour out her heart. Question number 2, if God is all-knowing, that means he's all-powerful, right? Because if you know everything, you could do anything you want with that knowledge. And if God is all-knowing and all-powerful, for sure God knows what's right for me. So then how can I ask for something specific? I mean, it's stupid. It's really silly. It's foolish to ask for something specific if I truly believe that Hashem is all-knowing. Because if Hashem is all-knowing, he knows about me in the past, present, and the future, right? God is outside of time, space. So if God is outside of time, space, and he knows about everything and the consequences of all my actions, and I ask for something specific, it's pretty silly because he knows much more than I do. So the third question the Hachamim ask is, why not just be silent? Why not just be quiet? Why pray at all? So again, let's start again. Why ask if he knows already? Number 2, if he knows already, why ask for something specific? And if it's foolish to ask for something specific because he knows everything already, why aren't I just silent? Why don't I just go for my day? Why don't we take tefillah and bakasha out of our daily lives? Here? These are the questions. So I'm going to pose just one perspective on this. And I'm sure there are other perspectives, but this is the one I think is the most valuable. So let me explain. There's something called Masechet Ta'anit. Masechet Ta'anit is a Masechet of Gemara on when the Jewish people should fast. When the Jewish people should fast on difficulties that befall the congregation. So watch this, ready? Mitzvat Aseh min HaTorah. It's a positive command from the Torah. Liz'och, to scream out and to cry out. Ulerahariya b'hasotzerot, and to blow the trumpets. Al kol sarah shetavo al hasibur, on any difficulty that comes upon the congregation. V'davar zeh midarkei teshuvah, and this is part of the process of doing teshuvah. Why? Because when you're having a difficulty, when you scream out and when you cry out, the process itself of speaking to another and crying out to another reminds you of what? Right? You're not crying out to yourself when you're praying. You're not asking yourself when you're doing bakasha. You're asking God. That process itself is the value of tefillah and bakasha. It's reminding yourself that A, that God is the source of all. He's what's called philosophically the prime cause. Hashem causes everything way back from the beginning and continually. Think about Hashem like electricity, right? If this computer that I'm using right now, I pulled the socket out of the wall, what would happen to the computer? I mean, there's a battery in this one, but what would happen? Slowly the battery would die out. Hashem, philosophically, is not only the Boreh Olam, the creator of the world. He's also the Gorem. He's the cause. So when you pray and you ask, what are you reminding yourself? That he's not only the Boreh, that he created it and left it and forgot it. You're reminding yourself that he is the Gorem, that he is the cause for continual beracha or kelala in your life. Right? So the process of tefillah, the rabbis are teaching us, it's a reminder that there is a repository of beracha and kelala out there that you are focusing towards, that you are asking from, that you are leaning on, that you are thinking about. You with me? So Hashem, the prayer that you're doing during, let's say, a ta'anit, when something really bad is happening, is reminding you, A, that God is the one who gave it, which is very important, right? Sometimes we forget the simple things of life. That if you believe in God, not everybody believes in God, by the way. Not everybody believes that there's something out there in another, above all the dimensions, that is involved in our universe. Not everybody believes that, but we do. We do as Jewish people. It's one of the 13 Ikarim. No matter who you slice it by, no matter which one of the Rambam, Yosef Albo, the Kuzari, whoever you slice, whatever way you want to come in philosophically, we all believe that Hashem created the universe and that he is involved at his will, right? The concept of Hashgacha is complex. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to accept it right now as an axiom, but that's what we believe. The second reason why we scream out and pray is not only to believe that it came from him, is because you need to recognize your part in it, ladies. You need to recognize that we have a part in the relationship. And if things are going well, we scream out and cry in thanks and praise. And when things are not going well, we scream out and cry to remind ourselves, hey, we might have caused this to come upon ourselves in terms of a drought, in terms of a famine, in terms of a pandemic. What haven't we done as a human race that God needs to send us a reminder? Right? That is the process of bakasha. So, right? So the concept of bakasha here is not, and I'm going to get to this next week, not so much wanting to ask for something so I manipulate God. It's the opposite way around. It's the opposite way around, and I'll leave you on this, right? The bakashot that we make of God is a reminder. It's not a manipulation of God. Who would want, one second, who would want to manipulate God's will? I mean, come on. He's all omniscient. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. I'm not all knowing. I'm not all powerful. I'm a human being who's a creation, not the creator. So why would you think for even a millisecond that manipulating God's will to meet your will is a sensible thing to do? Hannah, when she prayed to God, she knew this cold. She didn't have to come to this class. She said, everything I'm asking from God is only if God thinks it's the right thing to do. And not only that, when I'm asking for something, I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking for the bigger picture. I'm asking so that I have what I need in order to fulfill God's will. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of making a bakasha. And that's why, by the way, every day, 3 times a day, in our Amidah, we have bakashot. Why do we have bakashot in our Amidah? Because the bakashot that the Hachamim will metaken in our Amidah We're not bakashot for ourselves. Because if you had to sit down and ask for stuff, I have to tell you the truth, it wouldn't come out so good. We would ask for silly things. We would ask for things that only suit our own ta'avot. So what did the rabbis do? They organized, like a Hallmark card, a series of bakashot that speak about the most important things. Listen to this. First bakasha. Chokhmah, bina, bada'at. Wisdom. What's a human being without any wisdom? The first, honen adat. It's the first bakasha. Then we talk about, inner turmoil in terms of teshuvah. We say, Hashem, please forgive me. I want to be the better person. I want to improve. I want to progress. Then we talk about getting back home. Kibbutz galuyot. Right? These, Hachamim said, you know what? When you wake up in the morning, if we left you willy-nilly to create your own bakasha system, it would be self-serving. So what do they do? The bakashot and the amidah are tailoring us, or guiding us to ask for the essential things in our lives. Wisdom, teshuvah, getting back home, rain. Right? Everybody knows we just switched out tefillah. If you don't know, you should know. You should do it today. Mashi baruach moed geshem. And we'll change Barech Aleinu on December 4th or 5th. We ask for leadership, because without leadership, what happens to society? We ask about the eradication of evil. Then we ask about protection of good leaders, Allah Sadiqim. Then we have this whole group of halachot, of bakashot, not talking about something individual, but more global in terms of Eretz Israel, getting back our capital, getting back the opportunity to go to Israel. And then we sum it all up by saying Shema Kolenu, that we believe, this is not a request, we believe that Hashem is Shomea Tefillah. Hashem is the one who listens to the tefillot. So those bakashot and the amidah are not for me. They're for us. They're a reminder for us to choose priorities. These are the priorities that you should have in your life. So I'll just give you a minute on the Tehillim for a second, okay? And maybe over the next week you'll do some homework if you want. There's 150 chapters in Sefer Tehillim. Some Hachamim believe there were a lot more, but we lost some of them. According to the Gemara, there's multiple opinions of who wrote Sefer Tehillim. It doesn't matter for this class right now. It could be David HaMelech, it could be some Zikenim, it could be Anshe Knesset Gedolah, it could be some people think Adam wrote, or so I'm just forgetting right now. But there's a lot of different opinions. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. In Sefer Tehillim, there's some beautiful chapters that talk about praise of God. There's some beautiful chapters talking about sadness and longing and hopelessness and lost. There's beautiful chapters talking about hope and positive things. There's other chapters talking about difficulties that somebody was having. All of them, all of the chapters contain a reminder that Hashem is great, and you can rely on Hashem's power and wisdom in order to solve the trouble. That is the common denominator through all the different things. Check. We go through all 150 by next week. Next week we will ask the following question. What is the proper mindset when you read Sefer Tehillim or when you do any mitzvah? Okay? And we will build upon the foundations built in this class, for class number 1, in order to get to a deeper understanding of reading Perakim Tehillim and doing other mitzvot in the right way. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. So I hope to see you all next week. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions now.